What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 658 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week, which is going to be a little bit more extended than normal for at least one of these hot tags, because instead of doing a separate video, we're just combining these because it is a hot tag that we could have done a separate video for. And why bother to record two things instead? Who are we that we are talking on this episode? If you are brand new, then I am Tony Mango, and always with me is Robert D. Felice.
Hey, Tony, how are you feeling this wonderful evening?
Skip, and we move on. Oh, you know how it is. But yeah, how are everybody else feeling? How are you feeling, Rob?
Skip. And we'll go right on to the hot tags of the week as we talk about the TV stuff and the trademark stuff, maybe.
Do we have any trademarks?
Oh, WWE trademarked a few things, like New Blood Rising.
Oh, did we not talk about that yet? I forget did I talk? I don't remember if I talked about that. All right. Well, before we get into that, because we will talk briefly about that then, just in case. As we always do here, we always want to know what you guys have to say too. Tell us how you're feeling, how you're doing, but tell us also what you think about these hot tags and the main topic, which will be about John Cena's retirement too. Leave your comments below on YouTube or elsewhere if you are listening elsewhere. Of course, there are so many different ways that you can chime in with your thoughts. You know, got Facebook on the facebook.com/group/the Megamaniacs chat, but you also have the Facebook actually for Smark Moment. You got Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, on multiple different accounts. You've got the page on smarkoutmoment.com, but you also have the YouTube channel. And if you want to join the Discord, that is another option for you to chat it up throughout the week on about any topic you want. Well, not necessarily anything. I mean, if you start getting too weird, we're going to ban you. But the Redbubble and TeePublic things are something that you can help us out to keep the lights on here. Keep that in mind if you want to pick up some merchandise for Smark Out Moment or Fanboys Anonymous or a Mango Tees. Share your support for Fanboys Anonymous, by the way. We just did it's a long time coming, but the Crisis on Infinite Earths Justice League Part 2 movie fan tracks. Going to be watching the third part of that in a few weeks, actually. I think it might even be a few days from now. So sometime next week, maybe we'll get around to that. So, show your support for the Blue Brand. And if you, of course, do have some spare change that you want to toss our way to keep Smart Cat Moment around in this era where it is very unsure if week to week things will end up being whatever they are, then the Patreon and the YouTube channel membership are the two best ways to just directly support us. Also, the thanks button that's on there, it's pretty much the same thing, but at least when you are on the Darkcast tier, for instance, you get access to the Darkcast podcasts. Only can listen to them if you are on that tier. So whether it's $1 a month, $5, $10, or the Pick Your Poison tier, where you get to request something specifically that you want us to do, all that stuff makes you an amazing person. And in this world, karma is everything. And I don't mean Awesome Kong. So let's talk about some of those things. Now, I think I might have mentioned this on the previous thing on my own, but didn't get your opinion at least. It was New Blood Rising is what they had renewed their trademark for, as well as Super Brawl and the Match Beyond. And I even put up something on, I think it was EWN about this, about Super Brawl is a great name. The Match Beyond is absolutely stupid, and New Blood Rising is dumb.
So New Blood Rising is a little silly. But here's why Super Brawl and Match Beyond intrigue me. They are things created specifically by Dusty Rhodes that Cody, when he was in AEW, was trademarking himself.
Mm-hmm. Along with Bash at the Beach and a few other things.
Because if you can remember that far back, right before the pandemic, when they were building towards the Elite and Inner Circle Blood and Guts, Cody had teased that they were going to call it the Match Beyond because they couldn't call it War Games, but they'll still get Dusty's touch in there. So I think it's interesting now that Cody's the face of the company that they have been able to, hey, let us have those trademarks. Okay, yeah, you can have those trademarks.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with that, though, I think you can't call something the Match Beyond and now it sounds stupid because it's very much like welcome to the world of tomorrow.
Okay, but to be fair, this is how that worked. War Games is the part of the cage match where, they're all entering the cage and you cannot win the match. The match beyond is the match beyond the part where now you can actually win. It's a match now. That's why
it's just not something I like. Like I'm
Dusty saw Mad Max.
Yeah. Which I still have not watched that one.
And said, I want to do the Thunderdome. That's all that is.
And why didn't they call it Thunderdome?
Because they called something else that.
And then WWE is the Thunderdome and stuff. I do always pitch the same thing for Super Brawl though. Just have it be a special episode around the Super Bowl. Just do it. Monday Night Raw, Super Brawl. And you could even have the Raw part of it be like the Super Brawl. You know what I mean?
At this point,
bring back Battle Bowl and put it there for that matter. You know?
Battle Bowl they should bring back. I like the Lethal Lottery thing. I think a lot of that's fun.
Like that would be so much more interesting than just like another episode of Monday Night Raw where it's just, hey, on this episode, it's so-and-so against so-and-so. Aren't you interested that Jey Uso's fighting Finn Balor?
I could see an era where Super Brawl is an episode of NXT,
mm-hmm.
or even the Super Brawl of wrestling, NXT versus TNA.
Could do that. I would go Worlds Collide, but
they probably would too. But I like Super Brawl. I always thought that was an awesome name for a show.
I think that Halftime Heat should always come back. I feel like I always pitch it like Fully Loaded is a term that they should go back to using. Over the Limit was a good name. Breaking Point.
I think In Your House. For like the two that they did in NXT, I thought those were fabulous. I thought like getting In Your House back was a lot of fun. They have a lot of stuff that they can dig into. Like, let's talk about this. Here's a hot tag. Perfect segue. They've officially announced they're bringing back Bad Blood. October 5th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. How do you feel about the name Bad Blood returning?
I'm not opposed to it, but at the same time, it's not one of my favorite ones. It's in that range of like, if we were to do like a tier list, maybe we should even do that at some point. Tier list of all the pay-per-view names in the past.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to write that idea down before I forget about it.
That's like an August Darkcast.
Oh, that would be a Darkcast, wouldn't it? And you know what? We haven't figured out anything for the August. So let's go. Oh, wait. Would it be better for August or would it be better for closer to Bad Blood?
Well, they're also bringing back No Mercy in September. I mean, I think it all works.
I'll write it down for August in the meantime. So, because of Bad Blood, tier list of old pay-per-view names. Cool. Get that down. Look at us planning shit as if we're still going to be around. I'm giving the universe until August 1st. You hear me? But it would be in that like D+, C- tier for me, kind of like Bad Blood is not. I mean, it depends on how many tiers that we have. If we get into the things like the Shield's final chapter, then that stuff is the absolute dredge.
I'm not counting that as a fucking name. Stop.
But if we go into, like S tier ones, like WrestleMania, like, yeah, Bad Blood's nowhere close. It's above Armageddon and Vengeance.
But it's Bad Blood in like the B or C tier for me.
But I'm interested in why they're bringing it back. Then why also be like bringing it in October, because you would assume that means a Hell in a Cell match.
Well, hold on. I'm going to get there. So I rarely, I'll pull behind the curtain a little bit because I've talked to you about this privately, how one of the things I like about my wrestling writing job as opposed to my overall entertainment writing job is I can just flood an article with useless trivia that only I know. So here's what we know. Bad Blood is October 5th. And that happens to be 27 years to the day of the In Your House Bad Blood, which was stylized with 2 Ds and was the debut of Hell in a Cell and the debut of Kane. Now, we also know that Bad Blood would move on to a June pay-per-view in the year 2003. But one of the things we know about all three Bad Blood pay-per-views is they were all headlined by Hell in a Cell. And one of the things we know about Hell in a Cell is that there was an October pay-per-view for like 13 years called Hell in a Cell. So I'm just going to hazard a guess that we're getting Hell in a Cell.
Can't do a second pole match.
And Bad Blood. And I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to just predict what I think the matches will be right now. I think Bad Blood will feature at least 2 Hell in a Cells. Jury's out if they want to do a women's one. I hope that they don't, quite frankly. I'm going to guess Cody and Randy. And then I'm going to guess, this might be hard because they're both SmackDown, but then I'm going to guess something Bloodline related because there's Bad Blood. I don't know if that's Roman Solo. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to guess we're getting at least one of those 2 matches inside Hell in a Cell.
Without knowing what they're going to do for SummerSlam and Bash in Berlin really makes it hard because Bash in Berlin's throwing me for a loop right now. I'm looking at that and I'm going like, well, does Gunther beat Damian Priest? And then we get like Gunther in a Hell in a Cell match? I don't know. And then like, it can't be Cody and Solo. So does Roman come back? And then is it Roman and Cody? Or there's a lot of things that are up in the air for that.
So I just figured it out. I don't know if there'll be a title on the line, but I think the Raw Hell in a Cell should probably be Seth Rollins against Bo Dallas / Taylor Rotunda / Howdy / whatever the fuck he's calling himself. Because we got to redeem that Hell in a Cell, don't we?
I don't think it's even worth trying.
I think it's worth trying.
I would be like, let's just pretend it didn't happen.
Because I think that like one of the things that this group should be doing, we're going full fantasy booking here, folks. One of the things that this group should be doing is redeeming all of the injustices to the Bray Wyatt character. And that is one of the top outliers. And I think you could do it. By the way, I think Bash in Berlin is probably just Gunther Rollins.
It's starting to feel like that a little bit to me, too. That it's just going to be Gunther beats Damian Priest, and then Seth Rollins is like, oh, by the way, since I don't have to worry. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to worry anymore about that because Damian Priest is like, yeah, fuck it, never mind. I do think that that's probably going to be that. I don't know. But Bad Blood returning, I'm not opposed to it. If you tell me you're going to do a Hell in a Cell match and you've got an idea that you want to do it, like you better have an idea, because I don't like the idea of it just being, like we talked about this a million times. It's October, so it's time for Hell in a Cell.
You know what?
If Bad Blood's how they want to do it, okay, sure, call it Bad Blood. If not, I mean, I keep saying I really wish that No Way Out would be brought back, and then I wouldn't even be opposed to Rage in a Cage.
Rage in a Cage is hard because, like, it's the subtitle of the 6th in your house, but no one ever really refers to those things as, like, no one calls it in your house Rage in a Cage. They're just like, yeah, at that in your house, Diesel fought Brett.
Yeah. I mean, I've long said I think that they should do that for like episodes of Raw and stuff. Like, it should just be, if we have a steel cage match on an episode of SmackDown, it should be WWE SmackDown Rage in a Cage.
They did that once. They did that in 2009 for some reason, and they actually used that as a subtitle. And I don't know why they fluctuate with things like that.
Yeah, it's Vince.
By the way, I think Tabby Tuesday, or not specifically not Tabby Tuesday, unless you're using it for NXT. I think something of the effect of social media, putting the power in people's hands, should be used on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
We're literally in the age of instant gratification, and like that's the norm.
How is it that like in Cyber Sunday were only around when there was a harder means for them to do it instead of just like Twitter and shit?
It's very strange to me, but maybe depending on if Triple H liked it, because it's very clear now, Triple H liked Bad Blood. That's why we're getting Bad Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not
saying we're getting
Triple,
almost anything.
I'm not saying Triple H does his own tweets, but the tweet that came from his account was, "This October, prepare to witness the return of an absolute classic." Really? Bad Blood? Like, I'm a child of that era, and I've even got to side-eye that a little bit. Like, not a lot of people were clamoring for Bad Blood.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask people to name 10 WWE pay-per-view titles, they're going to end up going, okay, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, Money in the Bank, King of the Ring. You know, they start getting into like some of those things. You ask 100 people to name 10, I don't think you're getting...
I think 3 of them might say Bad Blood.
Yeah, like it's going to be less than 10 people are going to name it. But we'll talk more Bad Blood a little bit later in the future. Let's get into this. Let's get into some of these people leaving companies and joining companies and all. Actually, unless you have any other trademarks. Did they do any other trademark stuff? You're aware of?
Not that
I had seen.
Not that I'm super aware of, but since I threw it out there, we'll say it real quick. NXT No Mercy, September 1st in Denver, Colorado.
That's right. They did announce that, yeah.
That means we are getting a doubleheader on the weekend of Bash in Berlin, which is the week it's sandwiched, right? It's the week after Wembley.
It's the day after Bash in Berlin.
Right, but
that's the week.
Weekend.
Yeah, it's the week after
Wembley and the week before All Out. So those 3 weeks are going to be crazy packed.
There was also this, I totally didn't even notice this from a few weeks ago, the WWE Independent Development and WWE ID. It sounds boring as all hell. It's like that global localization shit.
Okay. So that to me makes me think that's going to be a YouTube thing about wrestlers talking about their time on the independents. That's what I think that is.
I think they're developing Independence Day. So, I don't know. But yeah, let's switch over to the discussion about the releases the release and the 2 signings and the other signing for another company thing. You said Mace and Mansoor had signed with Ring of Honor.
Yep, that was confirmed by Fightful Select. If you watched the last episode of Ring of Honor, which why would you? Especially because it was the 4th of July, why would you? Mace and Mansoor appeared in a vignette. They're doing basically the Maximum Male Models thing, what they're calling themselves, MXM Collection or Collective. It's fine. They're great dudes. They're having fun.
Are they going by Mace and Mansoor?
Well, okay, Mansoor's name is Mansoor, so he is.
Yeah.
Mace is going by Mason D. Madden. Because he was Dio Madden.
Yeah.
So he's got it. It's a fun gimmick. They're having fun. I got nothing against these guys. I hope they have fun.
I like them. Yeah. I'm all for them getting back on their feet in a little better way. Still think that they shouldn't have been released from WWE, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Maxine Dupree worked her ass off to make that even kind of palatable, and they worked their asses off. So I'm glad that they're going to end up getting a shot.
Somebody that doesn't have a shot in WWE anymore, though, is Damon Kemp. Gable Steveson was released a few weeks ago, and his brother now gone as well, where they wrote him off of television with the whole thing with the New Quarter Catch crew doing we want to repeat what the D'Angelo family does. They shoved him in a trunk, and there you go. He's the 4th quote unquote death in NXT in the past like 2 years or so.
Yeah, NXT does tend to kill people off. It's very weird.
We've talked about it before, but it's the most dangerous thing you could ever do is to go into the parking lot in NXT. Doesn't matter if it's like Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, last man standing matches. You walk out of those and you're a completely different man. No, you go into the parking lot of NXT, you're going to get attacked by a mystery assailant, or you're going to be thrown into a car, abducted and turned into Legado del Fantasma, thrown off a fucking bridge.
Thrown into a river.
Yeah.
Washed ashore in Ring of Honor. Or maybe you're just never heard from again because they put a hit on you. You don't know how to shake hands. So Damon Kemp was told that his contract would not be renewed. That's becoming more and more of the norm.
Yeah, it seems like that's their passive way of releasing people is to just wait until the contract's over and then go.
Which is fine. By the way. Which is fine, right? Like, they can immediately start working. There's no I gotta sit here and stew for 90 days. The sad thing here is that Damon Kemp was really good.
See, I would, if I'm WWE and I know that that's coming up, I'd fucking just tell them, like the Dijak thing where he's like, oh, I was reaching out and we were trying to negotiate and they didn't say anything.
And then after,
know that you're not going to sign them. Just say, we're not interested in negotiating. And then they can take a couple days or however long it is to grasp the idea that they're leaving the company and start making calls and, get this shit sorted out. Like, be a human being. Just because they're a number to you doesn't mean that they're not something more to other people.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Damon Kemp was good. I hope he stays in wrestling.
He was solid, yeah.
He won't. For some reason.
It's a shame that both Damon Kemp and Gable Steveson couldn't have been combined, because if Gable, they're both Steveson. If the level of what we saw from Bobby of commitment and talent, I like Damon Kemp. If that would have been Gable Steveson, the guy that they were actually interested in, then we would have had a WWE superstar. And instead we had Gable Steveson get signed. They make a big fuss over him every couple of months for multiple years. Nothing happens with him. He gets released. In the meantime, they signed his brother. People go, oh, is that like a nepotism hire? And then they go, he's not that bad in NXT. And then he gets released right afterward anyway, too. Imagine all the money that they spent and that they wasted for both of these guys.
It's weird, huh?
At least they didn't fully waste it when it came to Damon Kemp. He wasn't bad. And he got some decent matches out of NXT. But maybe that money would have been used to sign 3 other people. Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know why they do this. But
well, the question we always ask, where do you think he should/will go in the future?
I hope he goes anywhere, honestly. I'm worried that he won't. You know what I mean? And I'm worried that he'll just sort of be a could have been story. I'm hoping he goes to GCW, does some Bloodsport shows, and then maybe he gets a shot at an MLW, works his way up to an AEW. I want to see him continue.
You think he's going to get signed by some football team like Campbell Stevenson?
I dare say he's not an Olympic gold medalist. I dare say football teams probably aren't going to come calling as quickly as they did for his brother. But it is an option, probably.
Man, that writing was on the wall with that Tavian Heights thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, more specifically because Tavian Heights appeared with Miles Bourne and Charlie Dempsey at the TNA tapings, and it was like, oh, where's Damon? Okay, the writing might be on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Now, hopefully he bounces back and we see him do something else in the future. But, when one door opens, another door opens as well, or window, whatever the hell. Or if you're...
It's a revolving door. It's fine.
2 people have joined WWE. One being Joe Tessitore. I don't know if I'm saying that right, or if it's Tessitore or something like that. I don't know anything about him.
We don't
whatsoever.
watch ESPN. It's fine.
No, it's yeah, he's a play-by-play broadcaster. He is going to start in the summer. He is going to be working with Wade Barrett and Corey Graves. They're going to keep Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on Monday Night Raw as is. So this, we've seen many other people be in this same position. Kevin Patrick, Jimmy. Oh my God, what was his name? Jimmy
Smith.
Jimmy Smith. I was going to say Jimmy Johnson. Like, guys, sandwich, please.
Freaking Jimmy John.
I've never eaten at Jimmy John's.
Jimmy John's is good.
I know that we've talked plenty of Jimmy John's in the future, in the past with Drew. Used to work there.
You don't have to. Yeah, we did.
There's Jimmy John's. Every time I fucking hear a sandstorm, I think of that now from that stupid outro. Yeah, Drew, fuck you.
He also knows his way around flowers.
Yes, he does. Surprisingly so.
No, but Jimmy John's is fine. You probably don't need it because you live in New York.
Yeah.
You don't need any chains. You live in New York. And not to folks, when I say this, he lives in the heart of what you think New York is. Like, he doesn't need chain restaurants.
No, the last chain restaurant I remember going to has to be so far back because why would I go out of my way to be like, let me go to the Olive Garden in Times Square? Motherfucker, I'm like, it would take less time to go to Little Italy. But neither here nor there. When it comes to these people, we've seen plenty people. One of them being Adnan Vaquer, WWE favorite baseball commentator. Some of them have been really great, and some of them have lasted a little while, and then they've finally figured out their rhythm, and then they became somebody that was really great, and other people just weren't fitting it whatsoever. So it's impossible to tell if this guy's any good. But for all we know,
ESPN, I've never heard of him until this week because I don't watch sports. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us are watching NFL or whatever he might have been a part of. I don't know.
The most interesting thing about this to me is that he was something like he was Nick Khan's first client ever.
Huh. So it's another, all who you know.
Nick Khan, forget about that for a minute. This dude is who is he? Like, is he just the human Rolodex of like, I know everybody. I can get anything done.
It's very ever since Nick Khan came on board, man, it's been weird because it is like, oh, and The Rock went to high school with him and whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about Nick Khan, really.
And his sister produces The Rock's show. And
yeah.
by the way, here's a clip of him on Wheel of Fortune. And by the way, he was Ariel Hawani's agent. And by the way, he was this dude's agent. What? Who is this guy?
Did you see the TV show The Consultant?
Yes.
Very cool show for anybody that's wondering. Kind of gives me a little bit of Nick Khan vibes.
It's pretty
where you're like, see the devil. Not gonna say Nick Khan is the devil, of course. Never met the guy. Probably a fucking nice person, whatever. But the more that somebody's connected, and the more that people have he's in a prominent position. He's not just some dude. He has lots of fingers and lots of pies. It sounds awful. I don't know why I went with that, but I just kind of go man, you can't get to that level of success without stepping on a lot of toes and without screwing people over. And
not only without stepping on a lot of toes and screwing a lot of people over, but I'll go with the wholesome thing here. But he's really got to be a people person, because in some ways, you and I have those same opportunities to network to a degree, and we're just sort of almost to our own detriment at times. Some people are just okay with being in there, nah, I just want to do my thing and then be able to shut my brain off. He seems like a guy who can just, no, I'm going to make this connection and then connect this to this. And then, I know this guy will get this deal. It's crazy.
Hell of a businessman.
But it's really cool to see.
Makes a lot of sense why he, the more that certain things happen, the more that you're okay, no wonder he's in this position. And clearly, he must have wowed everybody, and he continues to.
And the more that you see, WWE is becoming a giant ad, and they're literally taking up every inch of real estate in their arenas. Like, this is an ad, and this is an ad, and they're just making ass loads of money.
And yet still doing the whole thing about budget cuts, which is stupid because the world fucking blows.
Yeah. It's like, it's very interesting. All that to say that Nick Khan, for as long as he wants to be in WWE, can run the ship forever.
Kind of seems like that is the case. And then if he knows this Joe Tessitore, then that's a good in for that. But it's curious, like, I'm curious, at least I should say, why it took so long, if that's the case. Because Barrett and Graves together, they haven't felt like they've really figured it out to me. Like, Corey's not a play-by-play guy. And when they switched things up and they got rid of Kevin Patrick and they kind of rearranged the team a little bit and all, I figured that they had somebody in mind, and we had talked before about Vic Joseph following suit and that and all. But then, a couple months go by, and now this guy comes in. So I'm always curious to see a new play-by-play guy, or color commentator guy. But
I'm gonna be honest. One of the things that annoys me about this approach with the Adnan Virks and the Jimmy Smith, this is one of those downsides to having a wrestling monopoly that no one spoke about. Where were people getting these reps? Where were the next JRs going to come from? And we have seen this play out over and over again because, like, Michael Cole has just been the voice of WWE for nearly 30 years. And everybody they try to give a shot to, whether it's Tom Phillips or Byron Saxton or Renee Young, it's like they never stick around for long.
Well, we'll see if this guy does. But he is starting sometime in the summer. They haven't announced exactly when. It just says beginning this summer. So we are in the summer. We're, in the middle of it.
Week after SummerSlam.
Might be sometime around then. For all we know, tomorrow they're going to be like, hey, we're advertising Friday's SmackDown, and, this guy starts or something.
Joe Tessitore at the beginning, yeah.
But another person that's joining WWE is Stephanie Vaquer, who had most recently been seen, for anybody that just follows WWE and AEW, in the AEW side of it with the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, where she lost the New Japan Strong Women's Championship to Mercedes Moné. And I think she was, CMLL's
yes,
top champion, right?
And she was one half the tag champions, I believe.
All the belts. And then she's lost them all.
Oh, she didn't lose them.
She didn't lose them? I thought that I just read something earlier that said that she lost them all.
They stripped her.
Oh, okay. That's what I was saying.
Because she lost the New Japan one, and then they stripped her because it was suddenly, it went really quickly from, hey, we're hearing rumors that Stephanie Vaquer has interest from AEW and WWE, to, hey, by the way, she's not even going to be at Fantasticomania this weekend, and we need to crown new champions immediately because she's gone. So
she is officially in WWE. Shawn Michaels even tweeted it out.
Michaels tweeted it out. Per Fightful Select, she was backstage at Heatwave. This is a great move. Like,
I liked what I saw from that Monet match. Like, she stood out as like the more interesting even over Sasha, and I'm like, okay, cool, sign her.
By the way, Sasha turning heel. Hopefully, gonna enjoy this more. But Stephanie Vaquer, great signing. With her and Julia, it feels like glimpses. I'll be fair to say glimpses of that old school, like, hey, they're just signing big names. NXT,
black and gold era type.
Yeah, so that's hopefully something we can look forward to. And Stephanie Vaquer is a great signing. The women's division there is obviously now polished. A lot of, first-time wrestlers on that roster. What did I say?
But you didn't say the women's division there.
Oh,
you mean at NXT?
Yeah, when the women's division NXT is, obviously they're not super duper polished, but
to be fair, they're like there are people that are in that brand that are better than some people that are on the main roster.
Yep.
Like, I would take, say, in the ring, let me specify, I would take Roxanne Perez over somebody like, not to just like crap on anybody, but like Hayden Carter, for instance. Like, she's been around long enough that I think I would rather prefer a Roxanne Perez match. And then certain people that are better on the mic and better characters, like JC Jane is better on the mic than some people on the main roster. And Fallon Henley's been doing better. Sol Ruck is interesting. Kehlani Jordan's good,
Nobody does it like Lonnie. I am all in on Kehlani Jordan. I think Sol Ruck, I fear the knee injury might have screwed up a little bit. She was a little slow on Sunday night, but I think she's got all the potential in the world. There's something to the NXT women's locker room, and adding some foreign stars like Julia, like Stephanie Vaquer is going to just take it to the next level.
Julia, we would hope, is going to be popping up relatively soon. She's been cleared, so
she was scheduled to appear at Heatwave initially, but she broke her wrist. She is cleared. She'll be facing she'll be facing Saray for the Marigold Championship, first ever, I believe. Like on Saturday, same show that Io Sky will be going back to Japan to face. I believe it's Utami. Let me look up who she's fighting before I say something wrong.
Is she being billed as Io Sky or Io Shirai?
She is being billed as Io Sky. I don't know why I almost said Io Shirai. She is going to face Utami, Hayashishita, and that should be a fun show. Check it out on Wrestle Universe if you're interested. By the way, just so we get all Be Japan stuff out there, same night, AJ Styles going to Noah to face Narumichi Marufuji. Should be a fun weekend of shows on the Wrestle Universe platform. Wait, we got more Japan news because I'm looking at Fightful.com right now, and I see an article here by Colin Tessitore that says Tony Khan claims Tomohiro Ishii is staying with AEW for the rest of summer 2024.
Huh. That's interesting. Wonder why. He's just like, I just want to be on vacation.
Yeah, maybe that's all it is.
So we talked about, you said that Stephanie Vaquer was stripped of her championships. Well, we know somebody else who has been stripped of their championships because we know some Collision spoilers from AEW. They recorded this tonight, not that long ago, and the Bang Bang Gang are no longer the Trios champions. Jay White is injured, and instead of doing a Freebird rule where they end up passing this over to Juice Robinson to fill in the blank, which would make perfect sense, they're just vacating the belts. And it seems like the Patriarchy are the only teams that are currently in the running to win the vacated titles at some time frame that they haven't announced yet, at least not to the crowd for the live show. And I don't really care, to be honest. It sounds kind of awful, but it's like, yeah, I wasn't invested in this. Sure, put it on whoever. I'm not really like, it's gotta be Blackpool Combat Club, or it's gotta be Death Triangle, or it's gotta be whatever. Just
Must
do whatever.
Be Monday.
Any teams that stand out to you that you think are gonna win these?
It's gonna go to the Patriarchy. That's the story they're building on Collision right now, where Christian Cage wants to win every title in AEW so he can work his way back up to the world title. Should be fun. They got a lot of good trios in this company. I have been watching so much like mid-90s WCW filler programming, and the anchors of these shows are just these random star-studded matches. And I think that's what these trios titles should be. Put the Patriarchy on an episode of Collision against Claudio, Mox, and Wheeler. Give them 30 minutes. Let them have fun. And that's what these shows should be. Especially when you're a company that insists on saying every chance you get, this is where the best wrestle. Let the best
sickos wanting that, right?
let the best wrestle. Let these, you got that. You got these lucha dudes. Like let's just do random trios matches. You got enough teams, so give it to the patriarchy, and then let's see them have some fun matches.
What about the conglomerate?
No, the conglomeration.
That's what they're called.
They're the conglomeration of Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Mark Briscoe is one of the funniest acts in the company because it shouldn't work. But Mark Briscoe is talking himself.
He's so fun on the mic.
Into more and more spots on the show. And the conglomeration's fun. Again, that's what these trios titles should be. They should be fun.
Speaking of titles, the last of our normal hot tags, WWE may be introducing mid-card titles for the women's division on the main roster. And I say may because there seems to be a lot of speculation about this, yet at the same time, nothing's been announced. And at the same time, other speculation has been like, yeah, it's just a rumor, don't fucking buy into it. And we've seen plenty of this discussion over the past few years of there's a new championship, there's a new belt design, there's a blah, blah, blah. More often than not, it's not true. And every once in a while it is true, but it ends up taking so long that it gets to the point where you're like, well, maybe that original report wasn't true. And then eventually it did end up happening. But because it's been multiple years, they just took a while. Like, look at the women's tag titles. It was like, God knows how many years that was like, well, that's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. And then eventually Vince McMahon's just like, I'm Santa. Here's your fucking belts. You know what I mean? And
look, everybody loves to talk about you're the authority now. We need to talk more about, like, Vince came out as Santa to be like, here's your fucking women's tag titles. Shut up.
He was so obviously careless about that. Like, he just didn't give a shit at all. But if this is true, then the reports would be that they would end up being called the Women's Intercontinental Championship and the Women's United States Championship.
Hate it.
I'm not a fan either. I think that maybe this is a controversial opinion, maybe it is, and I don't know. I've never liked the United States Championship being
as a name
that thing, because I always say, like, I don't like the North American Championship. I don't like the TV title. I don't like anything that has a specific name to it that doesn't mean anything. The TV title is stupid. It's, hey, this is defended on TV. All of them are. Everything is on TV. And then if you do it on a house show, then you can't even say that it's only defended on there. It's dumb.
Okay, to be fair, that's why WWE has never done a TV title.
Yeah, they're smart like that. But then they've created things like the North American title, and it's like, okay, well, is that only defended on North American soil? No. Is it only people that are from North America? No. Then why is it the North American title?
Because Triple H is a mark. That's what this boils down to when it comes to stuff like that. The TV title used to have meaning because when it was like a Turner created belt, not a Turner created belt, but a Dusty created belt, it's because TV in the territory days was an ad for the live events. But there's a TV title, so there will be something that you can get excited for.
Right. And of course, you go back to the territory days, and the territory ends up being like the Midwest whatever champion, because that's the people that are in that territory.
States Heritage Championship or whatever.
Yeah, but it's like when you're World Wrestling Entertainment, you shouldn't have the world title and the global title and the universal title and the blah, 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 blah. So I hate the United States title. And I also, for that matter, the only reason why I don't dislike the Intercontinental Championship is that Mark reason, is because I liked the Intercontinental Championship back in the day, and the name's burned in my brain. So if you keep the old Intercontinental title design and you build enough legacy, it should just stick around, and that's it. Like, I would be pissed if they ever just say the WWE Championship lineage is not the same anymore. But I don't like the Women's Intercontinental and the Women's United States, because I would so much rather them just create new titles and be like, whatever you want to call it. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I know that some people would suggest the Divas Championship,
I'm about to make the case for the Divas Championship.
I could see an argument for it, but at the same time, I could see an argument against it.
I'm about to make the argument for it. But just so in the same vein of what I was just talking about with the TV title having a purpose, I think the Divas Championship could have a purpose. Now, granted, you can't do bra and panties matches, you can't do pillow fights, you can't do that stuff, right? But in the same way that hardcore dudes were like, yeah, I'm going to hit you with trash cans and I'm just a badass, the Divas Championship could be like, I'm going to win this title because I embody what it is to be a diva. Like, you need Tiffany or Chelsea or someone to set the tone, but it could be useful for a mid-card championship, or in some cases, especially when you're building a roster down in NXT of a lot of young, pretty girls, you can set the stage of like, before they take that serious step, they're going to win this Divas title. They're going to kind of parade around with it. It gives more excuse for more character presentation without people getting upset of, this is supposed to be a world championship. And what is the thing that Callum said when I said Chelsea should win Money in the Bank? He's like, I don't want, a comedy character going for a world title. Cool. This is her lane. There's a way you can do the Divas Championship and not have it mean 2-minute matches and pillow fights.
Now, I know he would suggest the Liberty title.
That's his, and that would be the great name for the opposite brand, which is more of just like a kind of like the saying mid-card without saying mid-card of like, all right, I'm going to be the workhorse belt. Even though I think that's kind of played out at this point. That could be the Liberty Championship. I'm going to do the workhorse. This is the workhorse championship for the women. And you could have someone like I'd put that on Raw since Chelsea's on SmackDown with the Divas belt. The workhorse title could go to fucking Shayna Baszler. Because she deserves it.
Well, definitely we need to talk about like who should get these. But when we're on this discussion of like names, I always thought that maybe Diamond could have been good for something like that. Because like diamonds are a girl's best friend. Diamonds are very valuable. You could do something like I don't think that WWE Women's Diamond Championship sounds good. Like for instance, but like you don't even have to call it the Women's Blank. You could just call it like the WWE.
Call it the WWE Diamond Championship.
Yeah, like whatever it might be. And like that, I think you have it more like, maybe you make it somewhat purplish in design. Like, not like a purple strap, but like some purplish accents to it. And
we're gonna get super into the minutia of colors, but like a silver belt with like maybe a little bit of lilac tones. If you got like it's sparkly, like you could do this. But of course, they'll just call it the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. It'll be the Intercontinental Championship with a white strap.
Yeah.
And it's like, like, but I do have a little bit of faith because Hunter has brought on some really sweet looking tag titles. So like, maybe we will get some cool looking women's mid-card titles.
I think it's just going to be the same thing. Like, the Women's World Championship and all.
I think that they should bring back Diva. I think we're in the era, and we're far enough removed that I think you should create a reason to reclaim that word. They made Diva a dirty word for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
You can reclaim that now and give it to Chelsea.
Hey, here's an idea. So we go with the diamond title thing, right? Some diamond in some fashion. And then WWE buys out TNA and they go with the other one's the Knockouts Championship.
You could also just have the Knockouts title.
The Knockouts title becomes the mid-card title for the women. There you go.
Knockouts title being the mid-card for the women on Raw. I think Chelsea Green should absolutely try to pitch bringing the Divas title back. Look, I'll never understand diva stands, but they exist and they're strong. That's a huge way to win back some good faith. And the people who just want to see women's wrestling will be happy that women have another belt.
Here's another idea too. If you don't want to go with knockouts and diamond of some sort, just be like the equivalent of the knockouts. The knockouts championship and the bombshells.
I like the bombshells.
And you can have it like, you don't have to have like a bomb on the fucking championship, but you can kind of make it look a little bit like it's a little bit of an explosion sort of thing. So it's like it's a bombshell because they're not only good looking, but they're also like, you know, bam, kind of explosion type thing. Look at that. Put the knockouts championship on SmackDown because it's SmackDown, knockout, like very punchy. And the bombshell thing for Raw because it's the red brand and all. Fucking hire us. So the women's Intercontinental title and the women's United States title, if they end up happening, which they may not, it's probably just going to be those names. But then that brings up a discussion of who should win those. And naturally, a big part of that discussion is we don't know when and how those would come about. So we don't know who would be available. We don't know who would be on the rosters. Let's just assume, for the sake of our sanity, that they announced something like that and they said, hey, we're going to crown these champions with a tournament that starts at the week after SummerSlam, and it's going to go up until, what's the event after Bash in Berlin? Is that Bad Blood?
Yeah, as right now.
So, I mean, Bad Blood's not necessarily a good pay-per-view to do that, but like, screw it. They crown those champions on Raw and SmackDown. And then that's the week that they call fucking WWE Gold Rush week or something because, hey, we're getting two new champions on there.
They have
tune in.
They own Gold Rush.
Yep, they've done it before. Call it Clash of Champions or something, like we talked about that before. But let's just assume that it's like around this time frame. And so you take out people like Bliss and Carmella and Shotzi who are injured, or people that are on the NXT roster. You just kind of assume that they're not getting called up. Or if you want to make a case for it, like, well, I would totally just call them up and make a big thing about it. Who would you put? One person on Raw, one person on SmackDown. I have a couple people that I've written down. Like, I've bolded some names on my little spreadsheet. I could show it, but I don't think anybody really would care. I think that there are a few names that make a lot of sense. I think we should probably start off with SmackDown because it's a smaller roster. So it's like, for anybody, real quick rundown. SmackDown's options: Bayley, who's currently holding the women's the women's championship, not the world championship. B-Fab, who doesn't wrestle. Bianca Belair, Blair Davenport, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Elektra Lopez, Jade Cargill, Michin, Naomi, Nia Jax, Tegan Nox, who has been MIA for fucking forever
since she got drafted,
and Ms. Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton. I look at that list and I go, okay, B-Fab's out, obviously. Indy Hartwell, out. Elektra Lopez, out. Candice, out. Love Candice, but no, not right now. Michin, sorry, out. Piper Niven, not interested in giving the belt to her. Tegan Nox, if she's going to be MIA, don't count her in there. Man, it's a shame Blair Davenport has done fuck all since being on the main roster, other than have Naomi say, "Who are you?" And then like 6 weeks later, she loses a match. I boil this down to, it depends on what they want to do with Jade Cargill. Mm-hmm. But if they want to go and give this to Jade and give her something to do in the meantime before she moves up to the main title, that could be a really good option. Yet I tend to lean more towards, I think Tiffany Stratton's cashing in on Bayley after Nia Jax. Nia Jax has Queen of the Ring already. Bayley will have already had a championship. She can win this another time in the future. I'd give this to Naomi.
Great minds think alike, because I also give this to Naomi. It's a good, she gets the opportunity to be like, I was the first women's United States champion. There's a lot of like Star Spangled Globe that the fireworks and you do the thing with the, oh my God, the belt is glowing and isn't it cool? Like, I also give this to Naomi. Short run.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't need to have it for like a year.
I give it to Naomi. Naomi could lose it in a couple months to
Jade, or she could lose it to
or Jade.
Yeah,
because my three options would have been Bianca, because she could always make history. Jade, because give her a belt, and Naomi, because it's an established veteran that you can like. This is a nice little give back to.
Yep, you give that to an established veteran who's a former world champion, and immediately the belt doesn't seem worthless. But Naomi's exactly in that range where she's Naomi stands
love it.
Yeah, they go nuts over that. She looks like she's doing something because she's not going to be winning that world championship anytime soon. And she can put over somebody, like you said, like a Blair Davenport, and make it seem like they are a bigger deal. I would potentially give it to Bianca, because if Bianca's not going to win that world title anytime soon, then, sure. But then you need to kind of have Bianca in that mix for that anyway. So Naomi is a perfect, I think, option.
Perfect Women's United States champion.
Now, when you go over to Raw, I'll spoil my answer for this, and then we'll kind of go back around. But I would go in the opposite direction. I would be like, okay, well, we're giving a championship to somebody who's an established veteran. Give it to another person who actually isn't in that, so that way you can get a different feel. And I'd go Kiana James.
Because, see, this is where the name would trip me up. Because it's the women's IC title, and I have it in my head like workhorse, I think you give it to a Kyrie or an EO. Like someone who can have solid matches and then, really get the credibility of the belt up. Or, like I mentioned this earlier, well, maybe you give this to Shayna.
Fucking
belt. Yeah.
Everybody in Damage Control, like, because you can't go wrong with Asuka, and it'd be cool to see Dakota Kai get something. There are definitely people on Raw that are absolute no's. Like, the Unholy Union, they're already holding the tag titles. No fucking chance. I wouldn't give it to Ivy Nile. She's not in that position yet. I don't think Casey and Casey, either of them, would be in a good spot for it. I would bypass Maxine Dupree. I would bypass Nikki Cross. Scarlett doesn't wrestle. But Sonya?
Zoe?
I think I'd probably hold off on Zelina. And Rhea Ripley should beat Liv Morgan. And I don't think I'd give it to Lyra Valkyria. She could feud over that.
She could always challenge for it and eventually win it.
But if you're not going to go with like an EO, I think a real good chance could be Kiana James, because she hasn't done anything either. And sooner or later, they're going to have to do something with her. And I'd like the idea that she would be in an opposite spectrum of Naomi. Naomi is an established veteran. Kiana's just starting out. You can have that whole like fresh vibe to it. And Kiana can be like the total opposite of Naomi when it comes to Naomi being this fighting babyface champion. Kiana's that Weasley heel type. I could see Kiana against Lyra. I could see Kiana against... Actually, they don't have a whole lot of baby faces on that brand. That's really strange.
Yeah, that's why it was sort of like, maybe you give it to an EO, and maybe, like, because there's not a lot of baby faces.
Kiana could feud with Zoe. If she's babyface, maybe lose to her. Zelina Vega, of course, she's in the mix there too. But she could beat Katana Chance and Kaden Carter in like setup matches. She could have a little feud with Ivy Nile.
Ivy Nile probably being the babyface, as long as she doesn't go to Chad's group.
Right.
She's the babyface that can eventually beat an EO or Shayna. And that's when you can start getting into like, then after a few months, you can call up a Roxanne.
Yeah.
You can call up a Lola Vice. You can call up
keep Lola in there for a little while.
She's going to cry and shake. What do you think?
There are a couple of people that are in a spot enough in NXT. Like if Gigi Dolan came up to the main roster, I don't think anybody would really notice a difference. You know, she's done enough in NXT. Just call her up. At this point, you know, Kalani Jordan's better than some of the people on the main roster. So,
yeah, she's eventually going to get a huge push.
Yeah.
Roxanne Perez, when she turns babyface again, is going to be great.
And you do have the option of people like, if she's able to return in time, this would be such a good championship for Raquel Rodriguez. Because they don't trust her for the world titles, the top titles. Yet they also just keep giving her a bunch of those tag title runs and then just, you know, throwing it away. So I think that, like, if she got her medical stuff sorted out, like, Raquel would be a really good option.
I think in the same vein, you know, a mid-card title would be a nice, not a thank you gift, but like something for Shotzi to have for a little bit. You know, like there are options, and I do hope that they go with a women's mid-card division because they deserve it. You know, like for real, there's enough women on that roster where they deserve it.
And somebody who may be still on the roster by that time, if it happens, may not. Natty
being the inaugural on the women's Intercontinental champion. Intercontinental titles mean so much to me because my Uncle Brett, my Uncle Owen, my Uncle Davey, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It writes itself.
Like, it's an easy fucking thing. And then it's like, okay, well, we really like Natty, but we're not going to make her the big star. So let's give her the other title. So that way she can have something going on, but it's not the same investment. And then she can put over people like a Kiana James or whatever. Again, it writes itself. And then when you come around to WrestleMania and everybody goes, oh my God, how come they don't have those championship matches? And you go, well, you don't have enough space on the card for everything. So let's do a 6-woman challenge kind of thing. But then that justifies it a little bit better too, because they could always just have, why are we having multiple women's matches on here that don't have any title? Oh, now we have a title. There you go.
You know, gotta say, not a bad idea. When you really sit down and think about it, maybe they should introduce these women's titles.
They should. They should just be the knockouts and the bombshells and the diamonds or whatever. Just buy the company. Urge to merge. Come on, do it. So let's get into our big story here. It's almost at the 1 hour mark.
I just want to say, did you think you were going to get a fantasy booking? You know, you got a lot of fantasy booking there. Part of the reason why you should support Smark at the moment.
It's very much true. Hey, make sure you hit that thanks button. Make sure you hit the like button on this video too, for that matter. Like, it's totally free. There's no reason why you shouldn't, unless you don't like it. And if you don't like it, then why are you listening? We'll put it that way. Yeah, let's get into some more fantasy booking stuff. Now, this is not going to be fantasy booking in the traditional sense of us like sitting down, figuring out the full card, the full lineup of everything, and, you know, running through a year plus, you know, year and a half type of stuff. But John Cena announced on this previous weekend at Money in the Bank, he is retiring. This is his farewell tour. And I was confused at first. I thought that the way that he said this was really confusing because he's like, Royal Rumble will be my last, Elimination Chamber will be my last, and WrestleMania will be my last, and I'm retiring in 2025. To me, that gives off the impression I am starting now, going on my retirement tour, and it will end at WrestleMania.
See, I was very clear to be like, he didn't say, and this is part of doing the journalism thing, is like you get super hyper aware of like, well, they didn't say that they were retiring at Mania. So, of course, he clarifies later. He's going to retire in 2025 December. So, that's really interesting.
At a date that we don't know yet, at an event that we don't know yet. And we were trying to figure this out just like off the air, of where we're like, okay, well, when in December would it make sense? Because realistically, these are the only options. A Monday Night Raw, a Friday Night SmackDown, because we know at this point that's not changing. Like, Raw is staying on Monday nights, SmackDown is staying on Friday nights. They might switch over with the whole 3-hour thing and 2-hour thing, whatever, but, you know, different networks, sure, fine. A Saturday or a Sunday for a pay-per-view. There is no way that John Cena is retiring on an NXT episode on Tuesdays. And I don't think that they can, in any capacity, really do a Wednesday or a Thursday show unless there's some other weird plan that we don't know. But if you're looking at Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday as options, you would assume he's probably not retiring on December 1st, Monday Night Raw. But, you know, you got 5 Mondays, 4 Sundays, 4 Fridays, and 4 Saturdays. We don't know what pay-per-views are going on. Nothing's on Christmas. That's the 25th. So it could be Saturday the 27th. It could be Saturday the 20th or Sunday the 21st, right before Christmas. It could be the 28th or the 29th, right after Christmas too. We don't know yet, and that's going to be part of the reason why we can't do a full fantasy booking, because we also don't even know how many things he's going to appear for. We know
40,
Royal Rumble.
40 dates.
40 dates, but, you know, that could change. He could get injured. Or he could decide to work a couple more dates if he ends up getting something free, you know? Like, we've seen people that have been, like, contracted to do just a few dates, like Brock Lesnar, and then he ends up doing an extra couple shows or something. And we don't know how many things are going to be, like, out of those 40 dates, how many of them are Raw, SmackDown episodes, and how many of them are pay-per-views. Because they could easily just build, okay, it's a pay-per-view match, and it's Cena against blank, and he doesn't even need to be on Raw or SmackDown. Working under the assumption, at the very least, though, that he's probably not going to be starting to wrestle very soon, but he could still wrestle in 2024. All we know right now is he will be, unless something changes, he will be in the Royal Rumble. He should be at Elimination Chamber. He'll wrestle at WrestleMania. And everything else is unknown. So we got to at least talk about options. Royal Rumble, we know how that's going to go. Cena either wins or he doesn't. But he's in the Royal Rumble match. There's no way he's not in the Royal Rumble match. So there's no point in really booking that, because the only way you could do that is if you book backwards and you say, like, let's book WrestleMania, then we go and he wins the Royal Rumble or something. Or you start a feud at the Royal Rumble, or you do something where you end up saying, and I'll spit this out in advance, I had a list of about 20 people or so that I was like, okay, I want Cena versus this person at some point. But I looked at that list, and the more that I thought about it, I was like, you know, do I really need to have John Cena versus Carlito again? Or can John Cena just interact with Carlito and eliminate him in the Royal Rumble? Or maybe, like, he has a match with him on Raw. I don't think dedicating a pay-per-view match to a lot of these people makes a whole lot of sense. But I got a list of people. And
I've got a list of people too. I'll be clear the way I see this going. I don't think he appears again in 2024. I think the first time you see him is the Raw on Netflix, first Raw of the year in January 2025. I think he declares for the Rumble. But I also think he says, but I'm back for the full year. I need warm-up matches. And that's when you go, well, he ain't fought Carlito in a hot minute. He ain't fought Kofi. Someone said he ain't fought Kofi ever. I have to look back at the US Open Challenge things, because I think he did fight Kofi. But, like, that's where you get stuff like that. Broad stroke, booking the big things. I think he wins the Rumble. I just do. I think that's a perfect setup for what I believe will be Cena beats Cody at WrestleMania. And then you just fill in the blank of your favorite John Cena rivalries. Randy Orton's got to have a match. Do they do it at a pay-per-view? I think they should. I would be okay with that being the Mania match for the world title. I think they should do Mania. I think he's going to fight Punk at whatever. Check the dates. Check whatever pay-per-view lands in Chicago. John Cena's going to fight CM Punk. That's going to happen.
There are a few out of that my list of like 20 people. there are 7 names that I put down under the guarantee thing of like, if I had any say in it, these are the 7 that I'd be like, please wrestle these guys.
Oh, I want to guess.
Okay, go for it.
So it's Randy.
Randy's one of them.
Punk.
Punk is one of them.
I'm going to say Cody.
That's number 3. Not necessarily in any order, but you got 3 so far.
I'm going to guess Melo's on your list.
Yes, he is. So you got 3 more.
Okay. I am going to assume...
You're batting 1,000 right now. Keep this going.
I'm going to assume
Pressure's on.
that for you want him to eventually get in the ring and either do something better with or just straight up beat Austin Theory.
No, he's not actually in my top 20.
That's fair. It was a weak
I thought
match.
about it. If it would have been 21 on my list, then the Austin Theory would have been on there.
Huh. Is Sami Zayn on your list?
No.
He'd be on mine, I'll tell you why. They never gotta make good for that whole he's gonna fight Sammy and then Sammy blows out his shoulder getting hyped for the match.
That's such a weird, like, get injured when he's just like, all right, everybody, wait, my arm. You know?
Jacob Fatu should absolutely be on your list.
No, actually not on my list.
If he's not, you should put him on the list right now. I don't know.
Also, I'll say this. Nobody in this new bloodline is on my list.
Okay. Is Roman on your list?
Roman's on the like second tier part of the list. But the more that I think about it, I'm like, I don't think so. I kind of want Roman to just return babyface, and if anything, maybe they team up or something. But he's already fought Roman twice. We don't need it again. What's he need to do? Lose again? You know? You're missing a really obvious one. Actually, 2 pretty obvious ones, and then one that you'll go, oh yeah, I can see that one too.
A pretty obvious one, huh?
Mm-hmm. Like a blatantly obvious one, like that. I'm surprised you didn't say as one of your first guesses.
You know who he hasn't fought that he should probably get? Well, fought as a babyface. Rey Mysterio.
Don't have him on my list.
Well, again, that's another one of those that, like, for me would be on the list of like, Logan Paul's got to be in the fucking.
Logan Paul's on my top 6 or 7.
Yeah, Logan Paul's up there. I don't want to see it, but you might have it on your list. LA Knight.
No, he's not on my list.
He's got to do something with Howdy.
I have that down as a secondary list because I'm like, I still don't know what they're gonna fucking do with Uncle Howdy. So maybe they do something where they kind of play with the the Firefly Funhouse, or maybe they don't. The jury's still out on that, but that's not my main 7.
Gunther, because I can't believe
there you go. That was the one that was the most blatantly obvious one. And then the other one that is, because I'll just say it, that I thought that you would have said already, Braun Breaker.
Yeah. He's got to do something with Breaker.
To reiterate, the list that I have that's supplemental to that, I'd like to see John Cena against Bronson Reed, Chad Gable, The Rock, maybe again. I don't know. Maybe. It kind of depends. Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, Ilya Dragunov, AJ Styles, Grayson Waller, and 2 other ones that I was like, this could be kind of fun. A tag team match where he teams with R-Truth. And if I'm going to pick somebody from NXT to work with, I'd love to see him do something with Josh Briggs. Because I do still think that Josh Briggs got a big future. But
so if I was going to pick, if you told me, here's the NXT list, pick someone right now, I'm going, hey, Oba.
Oba Femi, cool option.
You want to fucking be a guy who beats the shit out of John Cena? Like, I'm trying to stay away from those because I want John to win his matches.
He should win the majority of them, I think.
He needs to string some wins. And then he
can beat somebody like a Carmelo Hayes and then just be like, oh man, Carmelo really took him to the limit. And that doesn't make Carmelo look bad whatsoever.
Well, it depends on what they do with Carmelo by the time they get into that point.
And then what they do after, of course.
Gunther is a great opponent. I don't think he should be the last. Rollins, he needs to run it back with. Rollins should try to knee him in the face. And that should be how he wins. Rollins tries to knee him in the face, and then Cena gets him the SDF. You know, like, I want to see some callbacks or stuff like that. I want to see him run it back with AJ.
And that's where, like, some of those people like AJ Styles, I think that is where you can play around with something like the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber. Because it could be like, all right, Cena interacts with these people, but we don't need a dedicated pay-per-view match necessarily. Like, he can have his moment with a Bronson Reed in an Elimination Chamber, and then within 3 minutes, we probably know how that match would have gone, and you don't need to do a whole big thing. Same with, like, Grayson Waller. But it'd be cool if he had his own thing. You know, it depends on how many matches Cena really wants. But you also mentioned something else that's pretty interesting, and this is part of the discussion point. You said Gunther shouldn't be his last. So the two things that I really look at this for, I go, the most important things are who does he fight at Mania and who's his last opponent? Because Carmelo Hayes, I don't think should be either of those. Somebody like Gunther, I agree with you, shouldn't be his last opponent. But Gunther at WrestleMania, and then you start going,
if that's how he wins the world. Because that's the thing.
If Gunther beats Damian Priest at SummerSlam, and then if he retains the title at Bash in Berlin, and he keeps the title all the way up to Mania, and John Cena wins the Royal Rumble, and then John Cena challenges Gunther, and then John Cena beats Gunther and wins his 17th world title, and then drops that to somebody around, like, he could drop it fucking that next pay-per-view for all we care. But I could see that being a really good option. Or even if he loses to Gunther at WrestleMania, that could be a really good option. Because Cena Gunther, you put that on a marquee, you're done. You don't have to do anything else.
So the reason I think it'll be Cody and that belt in particular is I think they want him holding the giant WWE logo belt. And it's the main WWE title. The only thing making me think maybe he does fight Gunther or whoever the world champion is on Raw is that's a huge hook for Netflix. If Cena is the Raw guy on his final run.
Very true, because he did mention the whole Netflix thing.
Cena Gunther would be a great match, but I'm also thinking, because I'll spoil this, because I think it's Rock and Roman with no belt, and that's when I go, okay, and then you can do Cody Cena for the belt.
And that is definitely a big part of this, is you have to work backward without knowing what they want to do. We know The Rock is coming in some fashion. It's either Rock and Cody. It has to be this. It's either Rock and Cody, Rock, Cody, and Roman, or Rock and Roman. Those three have to do something together, but at least Rock and Roman do. Cody might not be involved, but The Rock and Roman Reigns absolutely 100% have to be involved with each other at WrestleMania. With or without Cody. With or without the championship.
Because everyone else kind of falls into place.
Mm-hmm. Like, we got to get the War Games thing. It has to be Bloodline Civil War. That cannot be anything else unless they're just fucking stupid. You know what I mean? And they've been plenty stupid before in the past, but this era, they don't seem as dumb. But Cody, we've talked about it already. Maybe Cody just keeps this championship, and maybe we get Cody Orton at WrestleMania, or maybe we get Cody, like you're saying, Cody Cena. Punk, I feel like it's a lock. Punk is going to fight Seth Rollins at WrestleMania.
Yeah, because you get through the Drew McIntyre stuff, and then you can go, all right.
Who eliminates who at the Royal Rumble? You know?
Right.
And that won't be for the title. It won't be the main event. So it's not going to be exactly what but it'll be one of the big marquee matches is Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. And then
it'll be the main event of one of the nights. Actually, no.
It might not be though, because the
John Cena thing screws everything up because
the John Cena thing does, and or if Cody is fighting with the championship and Rock and Roman's on the other night.
Well, no, because I think Cody doesn't need a main event. I think
probably not.
We're past that now.
But it's also like if he has the WWE championship, the chances of him main eventing the other night go up, you know?
Right. But I thought, okay, Punk was finally going to win the Royal Rumble. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Not if John Cena can tie the record. Because this is a history run. You know? Not if John Cena ties the record.
And I would be so on board with Cena getting a 17th world title, even if he just drops it like a month later, because it's like, you know what? Okay, he deserves to beat Flair. I would much rather John Cena have that record more so than Flair.
John Cena, I think, and this is the question I would love to ask Triple H. How much of what you wanted to do for you is a blueprint for what you can do with Cena? Because Hunter always said, I haven't announced a retirement run because I want to do a full-blown tour. And now John gets to do that. And John's young enough to where he can... what is he, 47? Yeah, he can easily win a world title. And it's not a big deal. You know?
Especially in an era where they spent so much time being like, well, champion doesn't need to defend their belt, you know?
Yeah, and especially in an era where it's like, oh, young man, 41-year-old Damian Priest. I'm going to beat that drum always. I love Damian Priest, but it's ridiculous. You know, John Cena can be a credible world champion. It doesn't have to feel like old man John, you know.
Old man John just ate one.
What he used to be. That's where I was going to. You know, there's so much you can do. Someone asked at the press conference about a heel turn. He turned it down. And I think at this stage in his career, he's right. He's like, people will see through it.
Yeah, it won't work now, especially after announcing the retirement thing.
Sheamus. Hell of a
one-off thing. But I wouldn't.
Because I want him to run it back with some people who, like, for example, one of his best opponents, and definitely this other person's best opponent, The Miz.
Yeah, like he's somebody that was like in the running to be on my backup list.
There's so much you can do with John. I think the Orton stuff, I don't want that to be a throwaway TV match. Maybe you can do that for AJ.
See, I'd make the argument. I think Orton needs to be the final one.
Could be the last match.
I think that needs to be like Gunther. No, Carmelo, no. I really look at it more so as the only three people that I want, and it's up to him, you know, like whatever he wants, that's what matters more. The only three people that I think make any sense to have the final match with John Cena are Cody, Orton, or Braun Breaker. And Braun Breaker, that's a hell of a risk that you take as opposed to just having the match at another time. So I lean more towards Orton or Cody. And between the two, I do lean more towards, he's probably tighter with Orton.
If
they are
Cody
friends.
Wanted to do the full Homelander, being John Cena's last is a great place to start.
Yeah, that's a good point too, if he turns heel.
And the thing with that, or, because even if he doesn't, Cody right now, his babyface is so genuine that John Cena can realistically pass him the torch.
Yeah, it could be pretty much, well, you are the John Cena of right now. So we wrestle, Cody wins, I shake his hand, I hold his hand up, and that's John Cena's last match.
Now with Randy, it's weird because with Cody and Randy, you can literally make the argument that either or is the perfect WrestleMania and either or is the perfect farewell.
Yeah, somebody like Logan Paul is not the final opponent. Logan Paul could be a good WrestleMania opponent. I'd still lean more towards Gunther.
Not for this Mania.
I still think Gunther is the better one.
Now that we know it's his farewell, not for this. The reason I say Randy, and everybody would boo me for this, but it's like...
For Mania or for the final one?
For Mania. For all the fucking shit they did. And they did a lot. They never did one-on-one at Mania. And you would think that they would have gotten around to it.
They should have. That should have been WrestleMania 24.
You know, and Randy and Cena are still in a position where they could do it. And it's because here's what a lot of people aren't mentioning yet, and why I think he has to win a world title. WrestleMania 21, it's going to be 20 years, not to the day, but almost, of when he won his first world title, beating JBL. He can win his last at his last Mania. There's so much beautiful, just you can tell the story just based on the history of it. You know, and I think I'd probably say Cody. The only issue I have with Randy as last match is how do you tell that story in a way that's meaningful? Or is it just like, hey, I get to pick, like the Baron Corbin Kurt Angle thing. Hey, I get to pick my last opponent and I'm picking you.
So here's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm sort of fantasy booking as we're talking, even though I'm not beholden to this. So for anybody that's like, you fantasy booked this last year and it's different than whatever, and you changed your mind. No, not necessarily beholden to this. But if we assume that Cena's not wrestling in 2024 and that he only wrestles a few pay-per-views and a few matches here and there or whatever, but really mostly a few major pay-per-views in 2025, this is what I would do. I would have John Cena enter the Royal Rumble. All right, well, let me backtrack. I think Cody, in my preference, Cody is still champion for WrestleMania. And Rock and Roman is not for the title. I think... I'm going to go back even further now that I'm talking about this. All right, so bear with me, everybody. Cody beats Solo at Survivor Series, at SummerSlam. In the meantime, we play around a little bit. Bad Blood, you get the Hell in a Cell match with Cody against whoever, or you ditch the Cody Hell in a Cell thing, and you don't do that. You do somebody else in a Hell in a Cell match, like it's Rollins against somebody or whatever. I don't know. Who cares? I lean more towards Cody's fighting in that because he is the guy that, he's part of the advertisements. So Cody against maybe Roman is happening there. Maybe it's The Rock at Bad Blood. You do Bloodline Civil War at Survivor Series because that's going to be at Survivor Series. If I had it my way, it wouldn't be, but whatever. And Cody retains the title throughout this whole thing. And The Rock and Roman Reigns fight at WrestleMania without the title on the line. Cody has the championship. Randy Orton turns heel. We get Randy and Cody at WrestleMania. And Gunther wins the title at SummerSlam. Gunther feuds with Rollins in the meantime. We come around to the Royal Rumble. CM Punk and Seth Rollins, one of them eliminates the other one eliminates the other one afterward. Rah, we're fighting, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do that at Mania 2. Cena wins Royal Rumble. Cena challenges Gunther. Cena loses to Gunther. Or Cena beats Gunther. Either way, I'm totally cool with it. If Cena beats Gunther, Cena drops the title. Whoever the next big person is that they want to do this, maybe it's like a Braun Breaker or somebody, I don't know. Probably has a match with Logan Paul defending the championship at like a Saudi show or something. But we ultimately come around to one of the big matches that he has is SummerSlam. And that's where you get Cody and Cena. And then when you get around to December, you've already had the Carmella match, you've already had the Braun Breaker match, you already had the Punk match somewhere in Chicago or something if you can, like you said. Or maybe it's CM Punk and John Cena at SummerSlam, whatever it might be. But by the time you come around to December, you start in probably June or so being like, hey, we're in that halfway point. Cena's retiring in December. And you start telling that story a little bit. And come October, Randy Orton will have been a heel for many months if you have him feud with Cody Rhodes. Bring back the Legend Killer. And he just goes, I am going to be your last opponent. I am going to, my piece de resistance on my Legend Killer status of like this part of my career, I am going to beat you in your last match. I am going to be the reason why John Cena retires. And you have heel Randy Orton, Legend Killer mode, balls to the wall, feuding with John Cena. John Cena wins. After that, they embrace each other. Randy Orton turns babyface again. People will have had over a year almost of Randy Orton as a heel. They're going to want to cheer him eventually anyway. Randy Orton doesn't stay heel that long anymore. And that could be the thing that's like, okay, well, you know, I tried. But he's my bro, sort of a thing.
I like it. I can't see a world where we don't try to have WrestleMania where CM Punk wins the world title, as long as he can please fuck stay healthy. So I think realistically the path I would take is Cena, Cody, Punk, Rollins, Roman Rock, and then I would have Cena defend at a couple of pay-per-views. Maybe, you know, he beats Cody in a rematch. Maybe he takes on AJ in a one-off at a pay-per-view, and then you get to like, God, I don't know. Let's for funsies, let's say Survivor Series is in Chicago. That's where he can do the Punk match. Let's say, you know, his SummerSlam opponent can be Breaker, and that's where Breaker shows he's on that level, but he doesn't get the job done. Or maybe he does get the job done, and maybe it's like, oh, Breaker ends Cena's thing, and now Cena goes, all right, well, we're winding this tour down. You know, I still got some business to take care of, so he fights, I don't know, Jacob Fatu. You know, he has a couple good matches in there, and that's where you get to, like, Randy and him have to team up to face whoever, some heel team. Maybe Bloodline is still a thing. God, I hope not at that point. But maybe Bloodline is still a thing. Randy turns. I'm going to be your last opponent. There's no way anybody but me is taking you out after everything you've done to me. You know, there's no way you're robbing me of this moment. And then Randy Cena in the last Raw of 2024, whatever that is, or the last SmackDown, wherever they just happen to be, John Cena's farewell is fighting his greatest opponent, Randy Orton.
So last Raw of 2025, you mean?
Yeah, 2025.
Would be the 29th.
That's about as good as you get.
And hopefully they book that for like Boston.
You know, and
just make everybody go completely nuts for Cena.
And
then comes back around to Hall of Fame next year, and maybe John Cena headlines Hall of Fame.
And then John Cena's dad is there, and you get the clips of like, I kicked your dad in the head, and there's a lot of it that writes itself. It's just a matter of, as long as everybody plays their roles to perfection, you can tell the right stories.
It's going to be weird if we go back in time and in the future and we end up being like, well, we never really knew that John Cena had planned this whole time to really wrestle his final match against Kale Dixon or something.
Yeah, it'll be like, and little did we know that John Cena's final match was actually against Tyson DuPont. And it was like, oh, well, fuck.
Like, not only would I not have guessed that, I wouldn't have guessed that that would have been a chain match and that it would happen in NXT and NXT's touring at that point and they're in I don't know, Germany or something.
We laugh, but it's like
anything can fucking happen the way that all these things
anything can happen. And the reason, if you're upset that we're like John Cena's not putting over Carmelo Hayes in his last match, because those ideas are stupid. I'm just gonna be straight up. Ric Flair was once scheduled to lose his career to Mr. Kennedy. Aren't we glad that we got Shawn Michaels? I'm sorry, I love you. Like, isn't that the way to go here?
Sometimes it makes perfect sense for somebody to just put over a new guy. Like if you said to me, hey, Goldberg has one more chance. He's got one more match. Who do you book him against in WWE?
John Cena.
Part of me thinks Braun Breaker.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Goldberg, that's his son somehow. It's not his son, but it might as well be. It's like Braun Breaker should get the opportunity to spear Goldberg and his career and sort of build up that next era of beast. Because Braun Breaker's fantastic.
I think it's funny as hell though when they end up having Michael Cole be like, he's a badass. He's an untamable or whatever badass.
And then Pat McAfee's just like, yeah, he's a brick shithouse. But
never understood that phrasing. But yeah, I mean, we're both working with the idea that Randy Orton should be the final one.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of people are in that same boat. I see a lot of people that are suggesting absolute fucking madness, though. Like, there are people that are legitimately like, well, he used to feud with this person, so why doesn't he have a match with Charlie Dempsey as his last one? Or like, why don't he rekindle his feud with, like blanking on some of these names or whatever, but like, where you're just like, yeah, he's not fighting Javier Bernal in his last match. It's not happening. You can mark out over your random favorites as much as you want, but Keanu Carver is not getting in that position. Sorry, Keanu. Maybe in the future you're the top guy. Not right now. And, it's as ridiculous as asking people way back in the day to be like, who should be the final person to fight Hulk Hogan? Oh, should it be this new guy, this Hunter Hearst Helmsley guy that we got? It's like, well, eventually he becomes Triple H, but at first he was just Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And, I see a lot of value in people like a Braun Breaker and a Carmelo Hayes. But I feel way more comfortable having John Cena have his final match against an established person that he can shake the hands with or do whatever. Because I also don't think that John Cena's final match should just be glum. Like, he shouldn't just fight Gunther and just Gunther beats him. And then Gunther's like, yep, see, I beat John Cena. And Cena just tucks his tail between his legs and walks away. John Cena needs to either win or he needs to be able to lose in a way that he can celebrate the person. So that's why it's got to be somebody like Orton or Cody.
Because Cody, if they wanted to do a story, Cody going Homelander would be great. But I think Cody's more of the WrestleMania match.
I lean more towards SummerSlam. But that's a lot to do with what are we doing at Mania. If the plan is just The Rock beats Cody and then it's Roman Reigns challenging for the championship at Mania,
why
and Cody needs to do something else.
Why do you think that Cody's going to lose to The Rock? Someone's suggesting his last match should be with Sabu. I'm sorry, sir.
Sabu? Sabu doesn't even show up to things that he's been like, I don't want to walk up the steps and stuff. What a legend. I do still think that there's a big part of The Rock and some of the other people's plans where they're just like, well, we got to do Roman and Rock for the title. We have to make it the biggest match ever. And without the title, it's not. Wouldn't be how I would book it. But then again, a lot of things in WWE would be different.
I do think he should get in there with Uncle Howdy. The man was in a Firefly Funhouse, and they did not explain anything. So I think he should get the chance to do that. There's so many things, but I see a lot of people wanting Orton, Cena, WrestleMania. And yeah, honestly, maybe that's the fucking move.
Could be. If Orton's not fighting Cody, and he's not fighting Cena,
there's a world.
What is the other Orton match at Mania?
There's a world where if he doesn't do a one-on-one match with this person, like tomorrow or between now and then, that Jacob Fatu match would be great. That Braun Breaker match for Randy would be great.
Randy Orton versus Braun Breaker at Mania, you mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. Because Braun Breaker is in that position that, like, I want him to win that Intercontinental title. And I want him to hold that until Mania. And he's got a lot of people he could be feuding with, too. Like, Braun Breaker against any number of people at Mania, it's not going to be too hard of a sell for me. Like, I mean, obviously it depends on who it is. Like, if you're trying to pitch to me, like, hey, Braun Breaker goes into Mania as the Intercontinental Champion and he's going up against Brutus Creed or Razor, I'd be like, I think we can aim a little bit reasonably here. Like, but Braun Breaker defending the Intercontinental Championship against like I'm trying to pick people that are just on Raw right now. Breaker defending against
Pete Dunne.
Pete Dunne's too low.
And that's sad.
Actually, on Raw, there's not a whole lot of great options, but like, depending on who stays babyface and heel and stuff, like if it's like, let's just say it's like Damian Priest. Although I do think that probably at this point it's Damian Priest against Finn Balor or something. Braun Breaker against a couple people, you know, he defends against a Braun Strowman and a Bronson Reed and whatever in a 4-way. Or like, if you switch people around for Mania and you can bring in some people from SmackDown instead, then Braun Breaker fights. Hell, Braun Breaker fights Baron Corbin. I'd be down for it. But Braun Breaker against AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Fucking hell of a match, right? Braun Breaker against Kevin Owens. Totally down for that.
They need to get rid of that. See, when we're talking about this, we keep thinking about these like brand lines that you need to cross. And it'd be a lot easier if they didn't have them.
Once Mania season comes around, they pretty much don't.
That's also a fair point.
But at least when it comes to Cena's...
It's going to be an emotional run. Like, I think like a lot of people don't understand how much John Cena means to a generation of young 30-year-olds and, 20-year-olds. Like, this is like the death of innocence for fans who are just entering adulthood now. John Cena's the guy. Like, I remember how I felt when, suddenly I was a senior in high school. I'm going to make you feel old. I apologize, Tony. Suddenly I was a senior in high school. And you blink and Shawn's gone. And Triple H is shifting towards this, I'm only going to wrestle once or twice a year. And Undertaker is shifting towards this, I'm only going to wrestle once or twice a year. Like, the end of John Cena and the eventual end of Rey Mysterio, too, because that's coming up this year, too. He wants to go to at least 50, and he's 49.
Yeah, that wouldn't that be weird if this is like The Rock's swan song, and Cena's and Mysterio's all at WrestleMania.
It happened 15 years prior when in 2010 it was Hunter's Swan Song as a full-time, Taker's Swan Song as a full-time, Batista's Swan Song, period. And you just kept having these guys leave, and like Edge was close to being retired. It could happen. It would be very emotional for a certain generation of people. And that's why I think this run's going to really matter.
I really hope it does, and I really hope that nothing gets in the way of it. I don't want to see some situation where it's like, man, we had injured. So many plans, and then
he got injured.
It tears his ACL or something, and then it all goes to shit. Because look at what happened to WrestleMania this year. They didn't have plans for everybody that worked out the way that they were supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, look at Punk. Punk finally puts aside his differences. He's going to headline Mania. And then, no, he's not.
It's like a weird karma type thing. And again, I'm not talking about Awesome Kong.
That's full circle.
All the more reason for you to pay attention to this and then in the future come back to it, because who knows how right or wrong that we are. But we will keep an eye on things, of course. We'll talk about that if we are still around, and have plenty more discussions about John Cena's run. Well, if it's going well, if it's not, if it's, hey, this is a big surprise of who he fights at Mania or something. I doubt I'm going to change my mind about Orton being my pick for the final person, but you never know. Could always happen. So
I think I'm not going to make a full decision right now about the last opponent, but I am pretty locked that he needs to win the Rumble and he needs to fight Cody at Mania, to me.
And I'm leaning more towards he wins the Rumble and he fights Gunther. So even if he wins the Royal Rumble, at least until the next night, you and I will sit there and go, see, I was right, but we don't know, So I want to know what everybody else has to say too. If they have any specific ideas in mind of like fantasy booking stuff, or if you guys are like, well, I couldn't care less about John Cena's career or something, whatever it might be, drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell us what you think about our ideas. What about your ideas? I don't know why I said ideas so weird right then, but I did. And the future of John Cena, it's wrapped into, question, but so is next week's episode of Smack Talk. I don't know what we're going to do for the next main event. Actually, the next two main events, they are kind of up in the air. 659 and 660 are prior to SummerSlam, and that's before we get into All In and Bash in Berlin and No Mercy and All Out and all those things where it's going to be just like pay-per-view after pay-per-view. Bam, bam, bam. And, we got some time to figure out some other things. So if you guys want us to do anything in particular, make sure that you let us know, and we will take all that into consideration. We'll try to figure out some good ways to get some fun, brand new kind of concepts out there, or go back to some old ones we haven't done in a while. It has been a little while since we've done some of these features, like the Superstar Scores or Top Rope List or something. So if you got an idea, drop it below. And make sure that you are also following all of the things you could see at smarkoutmoment.com and things on fanboysanonymous.com and anything else that's under a mango tree. So just go to amangotree.com or anthonymango.com. See this long list of different accounts. Follow all those, subscribe to them, like them, share them, whatever it might be. And follow me at Tony Mango, and follow Rob too.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful. Check out my work for however long on MovieWeb. Hopefully that only keeps growing and growing and growing. Check out my work on Fanboys. Check out my work on the Smark Moment writing side of things. There'll be something up soon about AEW Fight Forever. I just need to get in and format it. And yeah, for what was going to be a humdrum episode where we've gone for nearly 3 hours we've been talking. So that's
2-hour
cool.
podcast.
2-hour podcast.
Hour-long discussion before that.
Yes. And I think that's what's pretty cool. I hope everybody does listen to this. I hope you guys get some enjoyment out of hearing me and Tony just be buds at 1:42 in the morning, because that's what these podcasts are.
Hey, it's 7-Eleven right now. Make a wish and buy a roller dog.
And I will, and I hope you guys continue to check us out.
As far as fantasy league stuff goes, we made some changes on the most recent, follow-up for Money in the Bank. Those really aren't super duper complicated, but just for anybody that is wondering how that plays out, I had won the prediction contest for that one. I hedged my bets with some of those that we were sort of kind of iffy about. And when I saw that you guys were picking certain people, I was like, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I think the thing that had gotten me most was McIntyre winning.
Yep. As soon as I said it, because I put my money on Mello thinking, well, surely Punk will cost McIntyre the ladder match. No.
Yep. So that gave me a little bit of a bonus where I was able to trade 2 people and double up points for 3 people. I also had to get rid of somebody because that's what we're playing around with these rules this year. I got rid of Brutus Creed. I traded Lola Vice for Rhea Ripley. That worked out very well. I traded Andrade for Seth Rollins, which, sure. I trust that Andrade is not going to earn as many points as Seth Rollins. And I doubled up the points for Seth and Rhea Ripley, as well as Braun Breaker. You had gone next.
No, actually, Callum went next.
Oh, that's right. Callum did. He had eliminated AJ Styles and traded Julius Creed for Kehlani Jordan.
And I went last. I couldn't double up any points or anything. I cut Natalia for my team. I picked up Ethan Page.
Makes sense.
And Johnny Gargano. And I swapped out R-Truth and Charlie Dempsey. Hopefully, I don't live to regret that. And they give R-Truth the tag titles. And Johnny Gargano loses the titles or something.
Weird, hot potato-y type things that we end up trying to book people where we're like, oh, let's go with R-Truth or something because they're going to do something with him. And then it ends up being after a few weeks, they lose the title. And you're like, well, shit, if I would have drafted them before, I would have known that.
But you still have Tala Tonga on your team.
I know. I'm so banking on this whole idea of if I just keep the bloodline, then they're going to just keep racking up points later. And I need to keep eliminating other people as time goes on. I'm probably going to end up at the end of this whole thing just having, a few bloodline people or something. But I don't know the current scores of, exactly where we are. But if you go to WWEFantasyLeague.com, you can see however more of that is updated from what Callum does because he is controlling this whole thing. So if you're interested in things like that and you want us to do more of those things, that's all the more reason that you should show your support through this marketplace stuff that we mentioned before, because the more options that we have to do fun things like that all depends on the ability to actually spend the time and the money and the effort in doing those things. As this year has gone by and things have been as crazy as they've been, and I am as burned out and as
angry
and some other words as I am. I almost said that. No, it probably would have been a problem.
Existential is the word he was looking for.
Sure it was. It ends in ul.
Well, why don't you dial it back a little bit?
I keep mentioning it. So everybody, if you do want us to stick around, you got to show your support. Before you know it, we're going to disappear if that's not the case. So if you enjoy the hot tags, hit the like button, pass us around, post us on Reddit, shout out things. If you ever see anybody that's doing those, this sounds so pathetic, but you ever see anybody that does the whole thing of hey, if you've a YouTube channel that doesn't get as many subscribers as you think, put them out there. Put it out there. I know Peter does that every once in a while whenever he sees those things. I'm always greatly appreciated whenever Peter does that.
We always appreciate Peter. Peter will go down with the shit when shit goes down. And we appreciate that.
We appreciate everybody that listens, everybody that's a regular, everybody that's brand new. And we hope that we see you next time, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.